Adam,
Yeah.
need to stop what you're doing, and that clerk, you.
It won't show the picture. I don't.
Man. Great.
It's what?
Oh.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, because I reset everything before I turned everything on. Oh, the AC. Oh. Yeah, it's not even connecting to my computer. Because usually I have it say owl on here and it's not even showing that as an option.
Yeah.
That's strange.
You don't like a mouse anywhere.
Hmm.
You want a mouse.
No, it's fine. I left mine downstairs by accident. Use the mouse.
You want the mouse?
Yes, please.
Do you know how to take over as host? Yeah, so this one starts.
We're just having something out and we
Hold up, this June
trying to get a
17th.
meeting up and running. Thank you for your patience.
Go into my email. I had it open. Oh, did you close it? 65.
It wasn't anything, I had just your background of your notes.
Okay,
This really quick. So everyone can't see your emails and everything.
go into my calendar. That's weird.
Power. On that.
Are you here? Are you?
Your calendar.
No, it's, you gotta be connected to the Office 6365. I don't have it on my actual computer.
Where's that? You're right, your browser? Right here, okay. Sorry, let me see your stuff.
No, I know, sorry. It was up. I'm just go here. It was last one. Yep, on top.
That's trying to get insane.
Mhm. I don't know how to take over
You
that.
know, go here. Outlook.
You sound like.
And then do calendar. And it should look normal when you used to say. And I'm the alternate host, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Right. See, you have that, I don't have the outline on my camera.
Well, disappearing.
That's so strange.
Yeah.
No, that. I just wanted to feel. Yeah, exactly. So I just let her go.
Yay. Okay. Wait, on audio, what's the thing? Looks good, okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Everyone with Brian to be with. I just. Thank you, good evening. Thanks for being here for our meeting 7/25. Before we begin, our council meeting, we have so you can report and there's council also function as board of assessors. So I will go ahead and make a motion to follow the board of assessors meeting order, 6:39.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Melissa? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. We are now board of assessors. And I know we're going to be here tonight. If you want to be in it, correct?
Yes, good evening. All right, I think this is on. Okay, is it too loud? Is it okay? We're good, okay. So, I called this meeting tonight because, the abatement that I am recommending, is this too loud?
I just want you to, there's definitely an echo.
Yeah,
Here,
Or to the laptop. Both mics are being picked up at the same time.
okay, try now, Verna.
you ready? How's this? Is this better? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So anyway, thank you for having this meeting. I asked for the meeting because we do have an abatement recommendation that I'd like to make that is above the threshold that you've delegated to me. So that's why we needed to call this meeting. And although it's not a hearing, the attorney for the taxpayer is here tonight, Michael Skolnick. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. So there's a lot of information. I'll cover it briefly, I'll stop and focus on a certain area, however you would like to proceed on it. And if you have certainly any questions as we go, that's totally cool. It is McLand Development Incorporated filed an abatement request for the property, which is of course known as Samville Estates. Recently in February of 2024, they received approval from Planning Board for the 35 lot subdivision. So I reviewed the value last year, and I assessed it for $3,100,500. And that was based on a number of things. Of course, you know, what would be the value of each lot and when it sells separately, and then backing off the cost to develop the subdivision. So, when the taxpayer filed an abatement, they did so through their attorney, Michael Skolnick, and their opinion of value, I was a little surprised. It came in at $870,000. So I did a pretty in-depth review of the appraisal that was submitted, and you have a copy of it as well. And so in my recommendation and analysis, it's, I think, 6 pages. Yep. So the first 3 pages are just, you know, writing. And then the next 3 pages are grids with the examples and what I'm writing about. And then earlier, before you arrived, I put on your desk an additional little packet. It's just a communication. I sent out what's called, we assessors call it a 706A letter. So basically, the statute known as 706A gives the assessors the authority and the ability to ask for information from a taxpayer in order, you know, for which to base the assessment on. And so you have a copy of that letter that I sent, and you also have a copy of the response from the attorney. So, so I referred to it, so I wanted to make sure that you have that as well. Okay. So one of the things that, you always want to ask somebody if they're, not agreeing with an assessment is, would you sell it for what we have it assessed for? Because especially in this fast-paced market that we've been in the last 5 or 6 years, we are trying to keep up with value, right? And our values are being updated every year so that we can maintain our reimbursement. So we're not falling too far behind, you know, when it comes to modern market value. The answer from the attorney was that no, they would not sell the property for what the appraisal came in at. And there was an offer that he had indicated that there was an offer of $900,000 on the subdivision, but the would-be buyer withdrew their offer. I think a lot of what is happening here is the litigation that was going on with Samville Estates. The fact that they contested condition 6 and the findings of fact, the attorney referenced that in the abatement. And I don't think that is a viable factor to reduce somebody's market value. It was the owner's intention, it was the owner's decision to sue the town over condition 6. It was not something that the town did wrong. There was no underlying factor in the land that made the land or the subdivision worth any less. I can see that somebody may be hesitant to buy for a period of time while the situation resolved, but it's not really going to affect the market value. So, so I just wanted to make my opinion known about that. So the definition of market value is on page 8 in the appraisal. If you had a chance to read it, you would know that it is the most probable price that a property should bring in a competitive and open market, not the average price, not the highest price, the most probable. And if the the seller is not willing to sell it for the appraised price, there's something going on with that appraisal that is discounting that value. And as I read through the appraisal, it became apparent to me that the costs that they were quoting seemed abnormally high to me and duplicative. So if you look at the letter and the response from the attorney that's on the top of that stapled packet I gave you, they go through a bunch of things that are expenses, you know, when you're developing a subdivision. And for example, just to number 1, where we talk about overhead, they talk about tax preparation and bookkeeping as being $5,000 every quarter. But we all know we only do tax prep once a year. So it seemed a little duplicative and the estimate's pretty high. Let's see, legal and engineering costs were quoted at $25,000 per quarter over 8 quarters. And they're listing those expenses of suing the town for the road access disputes, things like that. To me, are not applicable expenses that you would take off of the value of the land. I can give you some more examples, such as on-site management, property inspections, accounting are all quoted in the management oversight, which was also in the overhead and in the legal and engineering costs. So anyway, so that talks about the expenses. Another aspect of their argument is that, quote, in essence, the property as approved is burdened by abnormally high potential road costs based on its original design and layout as a conventional residential subdivision. Well, conventional residential subdivisions are still happening. And what that means is you're gonna have a little bit of a longer road, you're gonna have more road frontage, you're gonna have a little bit less acreage, in the subdivision. So, they're still happening. There was a terrace green out in Kennybunk, 43 lot subdivision, and the roads inside, I measured them out to be about 7,000 feet, where Samville was 6,422 feet. So I find that actually quite comparable, rather than it being abnormally high. So let's go on to, number 3. As you can see, in the appraisal, there were 2 different methods of arriving at value. One of them was the sales comparison approach. That's when you're looking at similar sales and you're adjusting for the differences to kind of arrive at a value. So the first 5 that are listed, it would be the 4th sheet. It looks like this. And the first 5 were the comps that were in the appraisal. 3 out of them I would not have used, because they're not actual subdivisions, or they're not going to be used as a subdivision. One of them, somebody was just buying and they're not going to subdivide. They're just going to use it as one lot. So I would not have used comps 2, 3, and 5. Comps 1 and 4 were fine. And I found several other subdivision sales that the appraiser didn't use, not sure why. But when you break it down and you adjust for the differences, you can see that the per lot value is coming in with a range of like 61,000 to about 80,000. And so I judged the indicated price per lot to be about 70,000 for Samville. That brings us to a value of 2.45 million. Okay, so I agree 3.1 is high, but I don't think it's 870. And if you think about it, Timber Mill Road sold as a concept plan, did not have planning board approval for 13 lots. However, 2 out of the lots have already been sold off, so it's really only 11. And if 11 lots sold for 725, I'm pretty sure 35 lots is worth a lot more than 870. It's my opinion. The next page goes over the discounted cash flow. So discounted cash flow is, people do that, it's a valid thing to do. It's not very common when you have a very short period of time, but it's usually used to value a 10, 20, or 30-year income stream. So the question is, what is something going to be worth? What's the value today, a future income stream? So, but that's okay, work with it. I went through it. You remove real estate taxes, so that's the difference between what I did and what the appraiser did, because when you're trying to arrive at an assessment, you don't include real estate taxes as an expense, you add them back in at the end. So I basically the only adjustment I did there was to adjust the road cost. And that value came in at 2.377. So the road, that was the other thing that I disagreed with in the appraisal that was submitted, is that they were estimating, I think, around 700 to 900 per linear foot for the road. I got a couple of quotes from a road in North Berwick where it came in at about 478, I believe, and another one in New Hampshire for 440 per linear foot when you adjust for the differences. So 24-foot wide road, the same amount of gravel, et cetera, et cetera. So that's, so I come up with a new value of, 2.5 million is what I'm recommending. Any questions so far?
Yes, but I'm gonna let you keep, do you have more to talk through?
Ah. Go ahead,
Okay.
it'll help me too.
Thinking about
Yeah, well, I want to make sure, I'm gonna kind of restate back some of what you said, just to make sure I understand. So in the, what clearly was an Excel document where you're looking at the different comparisons, with different comps. Essentially, the appraisal submitted by, the, what do I wanna call this, applicant's attorney, submitted only 5 comps. Correct, as part of that.
For the
appraisal.
sales comparison
For the
approach.
sales. And then you kind of redid that to a certain extent and then pulled out some of the appraisal.
That's part of my process. When you review an appraisal, you don't just look at the final number and go, okay, that's what it is. You know, we're trained to review appraisals. Look at the comps. Are they really good comps? We dig through the sale. Were there any extenuating circumstances, you know? And there were comps that I didn't use. So, I'm so organized.
Well, just say this, analysis that you put together is for me very easy to kind of follow the thought process here, so thank you.
I'm glad. Yeah, there were several comps that I did not use because, oh, here they are. I knew I had them. Two of them were subdivision sales, but they actually were condominiumized, so I threw them out. So the condominium sales were, one was in York. And I think the other one was in Old Orchard Beach. There was a Kennybunk, Brooks Landing. I threw that sale out because there was it's believed to be not arm's length. So part of the definition of market value is that, it is a sale that has been on the open market, and arm's length means that you don't know the buyer doesn't know the seller. There was competition. Other people had a chance to bid and consider it. So, so I threw that one out. One of them was seller financing that I couldn't get more information on, so I took that one out. Yep, Yeah.
So it sounds like from the 2 different, approaches you took, the sales comparison approach, which is what we're talking about right now with that Excel, analysis.
Yep.
That analysis arrived at an assessed value of 2.45 million.
Mhm.
And then you also did the other income approach, which is just an alternative.
Discounted cash flow.
Yes.
Yep, it's an alternate way to look at, if you're gonna look at selling a subdivision and somebody's gonna buy it, they're gonna be making money off the lots as they sell, right? The tricky thing is that the appraiser identified the most likely buyer to be a developer or a builder, right? And they're really actually gonna be getting a profit off the build of the house too. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why the expenses seem so high, because it seemed like the expenses were really for a full build out of the whole subdivision, not just selling the lots. You know what I mean? So if you identify the buyer as somebody who's going to build out those lots, there's more to it than the sale of a lot for 225,000. So that's, I think, another reason there was a disconnect in the appraisal for value. So, and I did some analysis, the Wells and Kennybunk. I analyzed their land values for land sales, but I only used ones that are west of I-95. Okay, more rural, not even close to the beach at all, very comparable to, you know, what we have here. Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Berna? Okay. I also just want to, I'm gonna I'm continue with my restating. So we have essentially what we're dealing with here is there was an original assessed value for this property of $3,100,500.
Right,
And an abatement, that application packet was submitted, to adjust the assessed value for this piece of property to, and the suggestion there was $870,000, correct? So the
Right.
abatement request is to reduce the assessed value from roughly $3.1 million down to $870,000.
correct.
You performed a couple of different analyses, to, take a look at the appraisal submitted by the attorney and landed at a lower assessed value, of 2.5 million, not quite the 870 million, but did find, some reduced value there, correct?
Correct.
Anyone have any other questions or comments or anything on this? Okay. All right, we can go ahead. I think Brenna, your recommendation is to grant the abatement in the value amount of $600,500, correct? That's your recommendation.
Yes, it is.
I will go ahead and make a motion to grant the abatement for, abatement number A 2025-7, map lot 013-100-000. To reduce the assessed value by $600,500 to $2.5 million.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Melissa?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that was our only abatement this evening, correct? Great. So thank you, Brenna, for your work and thank you for being here tonight. I will go ahead and close the Board of Assessors meeting at 6:58 PM. And I will go ahead and open our regular council meeting. We have 4 council. Motion to adjourn. Thank you. I will make a motion to adjourn the Board of Assessors meeting at 6:58 PM.
Second.
You have a second? All those in favor say aye. Melissa?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Now we are adjourned. I will open the council meeting. We have 4 councilors present. And our first order of business is I just going to make a motion. We need to modify our agenda a little bit this evening. I'm going to make a motion to add a new agenda item to tonight's agenda under unfinished business. This will be unfinished business number 5, pertaining to High Striker Farm, their odor mitigation plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Melissa?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Okay. First, we have minutes from our town council meeting of May 13th. Before we make a motion, I will just mention, there were 2 letters read into the record, at this meeting, by Brad Christo. It's kind of confusing because Mr. Christo read one of them and I read the other, but, I just have the first one just needs to be included in the packet. I have a copy here if we need it. So I will go ahead and offer up a motion to, adopt the town council minutes from May 13th, 2025 with this addition as read.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion or edits to minutes? All those in favor of adopting the minutes, say aye. Melissa?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Next, we have the treasurer's warrant. I will make a motion to sign the treasurer's warrant dated May 21st, 2025 in the amount of $165,695.23.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signing the treasurer's warrant, say aye. Melissa?
Aye.
Bill? John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. All right, up next, I have public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to speak about anything not on the agenda? What?
Hi, Brad Christo, Oldfields Road. Thank you for making that correction to the minutes. That was really the thing I wanted to talk about. To make sure that first letter was injected. But I sort of have a follow-up question. I know you can't answer the question, so I can maybe rhetorically ask. if the council and town manager will be find the time to talk with the chair of the school board about the potential shortfall that they might experience with the People's Petition Drive.
It would be inappropriate for me to talk to the board member, for the school board. I have talked to the superintendent, that's who we address.
Okay,
Talking to the business agent, the superintendent, had discussion. It has very little impact on us. It obviously would impact the school system. They're aware of that, as I said previously, we made them aware of it. And they're monitoring it like we're monitoring. But I have had communications.
thank you.
Anyone else want to see anything on the agenda? Anyone on the phone, on Zoom? Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comments. Next, we have unfinished business number 1, town hall renovation update. I don't think we have any. We don't have any documents for this one, I'm sorry.
Now, the guys are just gonna.
It's just a funding update. The bond did close last Thursday. We received the $6 million and it's in an account separate. Earning a high interest rate as our funds are at 1.75. But the air conditioner's on, it is really hard to.
You gotta talk right into the microphone.
You need to get closer.
Yeah, you gotta talk to the microphone.
Thank you. Raise your hand if that becomes a problem again, for mine. The update from the assistant town manager was just that we received $6 million bond payment, as expected from the town, for the town hall renovation, and it's going to be sitting in an account earning 4.75% interest. Anything else on that, Jen?
That's it for
Okay,
now.
thank you so much. Council, any questions or anything on bond? Okay. We'll move on to number 2, credit enhancement agreement. This was an item that we had on our agenda at our last meeting, and we opted to table that until this meeting, so we had extra time to review the contract. Council, does anyone have any thoughts or questions on the credit enhancement agreement on the table that I'm trying to locate them?
Good to schedule a public hearing.
What page are you on? Anyone who's in the document, can you tell me what page on
166, yes.
Okay, we're good.
Madam Chair, I move we schedule a public hearing on credit enhancement agreement for tax map block F1, block 33, tax 1 to be held on Tuesday, June 24th, 2025, on the 3rd floor of the town hall at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of holding a public hearing for the credit enhancement agreement for tax map block 1 on lot 33-1 on Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. Say aye. Well, aye. Bill.
Aye.
Done.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Unfinished business number 3, Emery's Bridge Road update. Tim, you're gonna update us on this one?
Yes, so as you've seen by the pictures that I forwarded to you, Jay has been, all the first crew have been doing extensive work out at the site. He has excavated as far down as they could without, stopping up the string, which is what they just got the airbags. So today's work was to plug the string with the airbags, reroute pumps. Thus, once they get that done, they'll be able to start, you can see the picture of the pipe there, it's collapsed. This is half the road that is exposed, they're gonna go in, rip out half the culvert, then go in, do the other side, rip that out. They gotta take down the bed, get it, surveyed to make sure that it's level and 2 feet below the water line. Get the filter back in, get ready for the pipe delivery again. We're working extremely hard and quick to get it done as fast as we can.
You could thank Jay for updating the sign with the mileage to where the actual bridge is out. In case anybody has any questions that it's not a through road, I appreciate that.
Okay? That's it.
Great, thank you, Tim. Moving on to, unfinished business number 4, Nature's Miracle LLC. I'm gonna go ahead and hand this over to Tim to set us up.
I'm gonna revert this to the code enforcement officer. I had her put forward. Give her. Overview of that.
How are you guys? Good evening. You're welcome. All right, so Nature's Miracle is seeking a renewal license. I wasn't close enough. Is this better? Okay, sorry. John, don't laugh. That makes me laugh.
Sorry.
Stop it. All right, so Nature's Miracle is here seeking renewal for their cannabis, their medical cannabis cultivation license that you guys, that this board granted last August for that. And they're also seeking a license for medical retail for cannabis as well, that you guys denied last August.
Just a procedural question, if we, for the cultivation license, if we granted that in August, it's for 1 year, correct? So why would a renewal be considered?
Sure, because Mr. Bergendahl and him and his attorneys are here, they can correct me if I'm wrong, but he has to have his renewal for the state signed off on, so he needs that renewed to be able to do that.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I move that we renew the cultivation license for Nature's Miracle LLC.
Second. All those in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion, thank you.
So I understand that this application was submitted on April 22nd. My one concern is that with the supporting documents, there is an expired license in the packet. One of the OCB licenses or whatever, there's actually 2 expired at this time, but one expired in April on the 6th, and the other one was May 13th. I would forgive the 13th because the application was submitted on April 22nd and it would have been valid at that point, but the other license wasn't valid at the time of submitting of the application.
Do you want me to turn this over to Mr. Bergendahl and his attorneys, because I'm not really sure?
Sure, I'm,
Great.
well, welcome. Whoever would like to come up. If you could just state your name and why you're here, your role.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Jill Cohen. I'm an attorney at Beryl in Portland. I represent Eric Bergendahl. I'm here with co-counsel Seth Russell this evening. If I could, I'll address your last question first. Do you know which license you're referring to?
It was Mr. Bergendahl's license was expired on April 6th of 2025.
We included multiple licenses in the packet, so I'm just trying to figure out which license you're referring to.
It looks like it's the individual caregiver registration. I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe it's Eric Bergendahl's that you were concerned about. That license has been renewed. It was just in the renewal process at the time of the application. We wanted to get this in promptly.
Any other discussion on the motion? Questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a vote. So the motion on the table is to approve the cultivation license for Nature's Miracle. Go ahead and take a vote, Melissa.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Done.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. And then I believe we have another action pertaining to this, because the applicant Nature's Miracle is applying for a renewed cultivation license, which we just approved, and then also for a retail store application as well. Jenny, is there anything else on that we should know or discuss? And I'll welcome Jill, you're welcome to come up. I'm happy to give you all about 10 minutes, to
Great.
make whatever case you'd like.
I will try and use less than 10 minutes. We were a bit surprised to be on the agenda under unfinished business. The application in front of you tonight is a new application for renewals of the cultivation license, which was just approved, and a renewal of the medical caregiver retail store license. In reading the agenda packet and the materials that came with it, and the direction that has been given to the council, we do believe we are here with new information and included it in our packet. Attorney Russell, in a letter dated April 17th, I think he raised 28 points in support of this medical caregiver retail store being a renewal, and that it is grandfathered in its current location, in its current configuration. The issue, we also included a section called miscellaneous documentation to support the town's determination of the grandfathered status of the Nature's Miracle retail store. So this was a new application for renewal, so a resubmission. Based, as you already referenced, this was before you last August as well. So part of the reason it's in front of you today is this is all wrapped up in the renewal of his caregiver card. So his caregiver card has been renewed without the retail authorization, and we need a local authorization form from South Berwick. My client's position is that he is grandfathered in this location. He's been a caregiver in South Berwick since 2013. He has been in his current configuration, selling to patients the entire time. And one of the references, in the agenda information sheet was basically, unless there's any new information, I think you've been directed to go a certain way on this, and I'm curious if the council has had an opportunity to review the information that we've provided. Because when I saw that we were on the agenda under unfinished business, it did make me think that maybe this had not been reviewed. We have laid out Mr. Bergendahl's case for being a grandfathered caregiver. The reason that's significant is it is what the town has two options on the local authorization form. And one is to check the box saying that he's a grandfathered caregiver, and the other is like your other stores in town. This location is a non-conforming use. So one of the comments in the packet refers to retail not being approved in this zone. That is not a relevant determination on this application because it is a non-conforming use and it is grandfathered. Under state law, a medical caregiver retail store is considered grandfathered if it has been in operation since December 13th of 2018. We've provided documentation to show that this location has been in operation since long before the state grandfathering date. And again, I didn't know if you had had a chance to review it and if you had any questions about it, because we are going to ask that you either approve this license or set it for a public hearing. The reason I say it that way is because to me, this should have been under new business. This was a new application. So this was not unfinished business. It was a totally new submission.
Just to answer your question, and regardless of whether an item is unfinished business or new business, all of the documents are shared with the council well in advance. We have plenty of time to review it.
Great. So my next question would be, are we on tonight for a vote on this agenda item or a vote to approve the license or a vote to schedule a public hearing?
So in all the information that was provided, and it was quite lengthy, and I did read it, we got it in advance. I see nothing from the planning board. Never been before the planning board, which a retail establishment has to go before the planning. I see stuff going back and forth with Joe Roussel, different code enforcement officers, but never been before the planning board. So that's where my sticking point is retail businesses have to go through the planning board, get approved for our ordinances. We can't bypass the planning board. So do you have anything, any documentation of going through the planning board approval for a retail store there, anything like that?
No, and our position on that is because it's a grandfathered retail store. It did not have to go before the planning board because it's already a non-conforming use. It's existing, it's grandfathered under state law. And we did inquire as to whether or not we should go through planning board review before we submitted this application. And we were not sent down that path. We were told we did not need to go to planning board. We are a non-conforming use that's grandfathered. So there would be, our positions, there would be nothing for the planning board to decide. If this were a new application, absolutely, we would need to go to planning board before we submitted this license application. But this is a license renewal. The town of South Berwick has, I believe, twice before signed a local authorization form for the Office of Cannabis Policy.
The licensing process that was put in place that requires businesses to come before this board was established well after this business was put into place. And so the licensing process that you're referring, the license that you're referring to that you have has never been granted because that process was established well after the formation of this business. So any business, whether that's medical, marijuana, retail store, cultivation, et cetera, the town of South Berwick now has a licensing process that requires any business to come before the council and have a public hearing. So that process has not, so there's nothing to be renewed in regard to that license, because that has never been issued.
South Berwick has authorized this retail location and signed local authorization forms for this retail business twice before. Like I said, you know, I've read your ordinance many times. And so I understand where the planning board piece fits in, but this is already an existing non-conforming use that's grandfathered under state law. So that's why it doesn't go to planning board. And I'm sorry, I sense your frustration. I'm just responding to what you said. But, you know, to say that a license has never been issued is not really accurate. We have in the packet at least one of the local authorization forms that was signed by a town official authorizing this grandfathered retail store. You've also seen the emails, as Mr. James referenced, that support that this location is grandfathered. So there would be nothing for the planning board to decide. It's an existing non-conforming use that's grandfathered.
So it is to my understanding, that the higher powers that be in the state with governing the cannabis, they did implement a grandfather clause in, anything that was completed before December 18th or 13th of 2018. Can you please define to me your definition of grandfathering in this case of what counts as actually being grandfathered?
Being grandfathered means that the business existed prior to December 13th, 2018 with municipal approval. Municipal approval meaning substantive review by town officials. I believe we provided you all and certainly your attorney, because I've dealt with him many times, with the municipal guidance document from the Office of Cannabis Policy that talks about what it means to be grandfathered and what's required in order to find that a business has been grandfathered. We put in our application, this renewal application, documentation that shows that this business was existing prior to December 13th, 2018, and that it had gone through substantive review by numerous municipal officials.
So I absolutely understand your definition. Unfortunately, another clause of grandfathering also means that if the business was existing, it can't change in operation. It can't change in the way that it looks. It has to be in its original state. You have provided supporting document that changes have occurred since he began his operation in 2018. And I don't feel that this business falls under the grandfather clause, no matter how many of our administrators may have misspoken and said that it does. And there is a specific board that you have to get a grandfathering approval from, and I don't see that in this packet.
So to address your comment that the definition of grandfathering includes not making any changes, I don't believe that that exists in the state law definition of grandfathering. So I hear you. What is required is substantive municipal review and that the business be in existence since December 13th, 2018. In other towns that have grappled with this issue, they have at times in the life of the business set parameters for those businesses where they cannot change in any way. That's not the case here. So if you're referring to the fact that there's a building permit for a porch or a redecorating, that wouldn't upset a grandfathering. He still has been in operation since prior to the state law grandfathering date.
I know that, Phil Saucier is on the phone, representing the town of South Berwick. Phil, I'm wondering if there's anything you can chime in and, share with us following.
Yes, good evening, and nice to be here, and nice to see Attorney Cohn.
Phil, I'm sorry, can you just make sure you get as close? to
Sure,
the
can you
mic?
hear me now? I'm about to get really close. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So the general standard is correct. And I've provided that information, I think, to you on multiple occasions. There's also helpfully, an email I wrote that says the same thing from back in 2021, just outlining the standard, right, under the law, which is marijuana operations that were operating with municipal approval prior to December 13th, 2018 can continue to operate. And to use the colloquial term, or grandfather, that means that they can continue to operate. And as I said at the time, they cannot expand, add to the operation, add different types of things. The municipal approval does not include the issuance of a building, electrical, or other similar permit or authorization that does not address the use of the structure or facility for which the permit or authorization is issued. What that means is it actually had to have had a building permit, a planning board approval, something that said this is for, in this case, a caregiver retail store. Right, that's one of the opt-in categories. So that's the standard. So they'll have to show that they have some sort of building permit or approval that show that they are operating with a municipal for a caregiver retail store. That's what you're going to look for. I also just want to just note quickly, because I did see that, and it's been very productive working with the two attorneys, but I did note in because I just saw this before tonight, this included an email from me suggesting somehow that meant that this was that this particular operation was grandfathered. But if you read the context, I'm being asked a question from Joe Roussel that's asking about a grow operation there. He's a medical marijuana operation is all it said. And he's doing some processing in the kitchen. He wants to build a garage. Can he do that? And the question was, and I actually did not give an answer because that's the code officer's decision. What I did was provide the legal standard for the code officer to determine whether or not, and if that grow operation, or in that case, it was the medical marijuana processing that was happening. If that was already happening before 2018 and it was some sort of manufacturing, then it potentially would have been that the standard would have been that. But so all I was doing is providing the legal standard there. The code officer, the town, has to make the determination based on the information it has in the approvals and whether that approval actually happened.
Phil, council, does anyone have any questions or comments?
I have one for Jenny, just for me more than anything.
Here's the mic for a second.
You might not know off the top of your head, when did that park district go no retail? Do you have any idea what year?
That I don't know, but we can look that up in our ordinance history and find out.
I'm pretty sure it was well before 2018. I think it was in the 80s that it went no retail out of that district. So just for me.
We can look that up. I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One thing I would add, if I could, to Mr. James' point, a local authorization wasn't always required for caregiver retail. It's new as of last summer. And so when the Office of Cannabis Policy, although they had been authorized to require this for a long time, they just put the form out in 2024. And it definitely turned things on its ear in a lot of towns. Because you had caregivers like Mr. Bergendahl operating out of his home who were always authorized to sell where they grow. To sell the proceeds of their grow to their patients. That's always been an authorized caregiver activity, always. What changed in 2024, and really before under state law, but what changed in 2024 was now the Office of Cannabis Policy put out this local authorization form, which is at the heart of the matter here today. You have a stack of them down in your lobby even. And what changed and why it doesn't necessarily matter when the zoning changed to remove retail is, well, first of all, it's a non-conforming use, but also with the Office of Cannabis Policy, once the definition of caregiver retail store changed statutorily, their definition included all fixed location sales. That's the key to this, is he's really not a caregiver retail store. He's a non-conforming use. He's a home-based caregiver, cultivator, selling from his cultivation site, which has always been an authorized caregiver activity. The only thing that changed is the definition of caregiver retail store that now encompasses all fixed location sales. So you used to have people with things that they would call patient lounges, patient offices, patient portals, that weren't really retail stores, but they were a place where a medical cannabis patient could come, meet with a caregiver and pick up their medicine. That's how he got his start. So Mr. Bergendahl's operation hasn't changed. State law has changed. The definition of caregiver retail store changed, and now it encompasses all fixed location sales. So we agree that retail is not for this zone. This is not a zone where retail is allowed. But the issue is more whether he's grandfathered as that non-conforming use. So when the zoning changed to remove retail from the R5, I think you said, isn't necessarily relevant. I mean, certainly whatever you want to know is relevant, but it's not necessarily relevant to the determination here tonight. The crux of the issue for Mr. Bergendahl is that he is grandfathered under state law, and that we have a pile of documentation to show that the town had been in his facility, that they were aware that he was conducting fixed location sales to patients. He's been a caregiver in South Berwick since 2013, long before the state law grandfathering date. You know, I mean, this is the question. This is the whole ball of wax right there, is whether you agree that he's grandfathered under state law. So we know that the zoning is not for retail, but it doesn't matter because he's a non-conforming use. We know that, you know, you would never put retail in this location, but it's not that he's a retail store. He's still the same caregiver he always was. He's still cultivating at this location. He's a nurse by trade. You probably know this. He's been in front of you many times. And so he's just serving his patients like he always has. The only thing that's changed is this fixed location sales that now requires a local authorization.
So then my hang up, and I respect your opinion, but my hang up on retail still is, no matter what you want to call it, if you were selling donuts, cupcakes, anything, retail is not allowed there. If it wasn't allowed, pick 1990. If it hasn't been allowed since 1990, it can't be non-conforming if it wasn't allowed in that district in 1990. So we can't be grandfathered, because how can you have a non-conforming business where you shouldn't have started a business in the first place? And I understand what the state has done to all of us towns in wishy-washy ways of how they've dealt with this. It has been a nightmare from day one. I've sat on this council for 11 years from the beginning of this. And I can't tell you how many times he stood in front of me. And he's been told multiple things from multiple town officials. So because a town official is wrong, does not supersede what our ordinances are on where retail can be. I can tell him he can go there, the town council, it doesn't mean anything. The planning board has to okay it by the ordinance. That's where my hang up is. No matter what we call what he's doing, he's not doing what he did when it originally started, where he provided medicine to a certain fixed number of clients. That's how it started. correct? So
Correct.
then we went from there to them saying, oh, now you can go anybody. And then we went to a retail store. So we have an ordinance, we have retail stores in a certain district here in town. Tab to a certain. That's where I disagree with, it does matter to me when that was done. And how it can be non-conforming if it was done after that district was made known.
Well, I think you made a good point. I mean, this is what state law served up to the town, not Mr. Bergendahls issue,
Nope.
right?
No, there's nothing personal between Mr. Bergdahl and myself or anybody. I understand, we all got dealt a bad hand. However, ordinances are what we run our government on, and that's what we have to do sitting at this table.
Seth Russell, co-counsel, I just wanted to help maybe distinguish a few points here. So I think it's also important to note that when he first began operations and throughout his operation time, he continuously was in contact with Joe Russo, who told him he was agriculture. And under the agriculture definition of that ordinance, he did not need to go before planning board at all. No matter what he was doing there, that was his directions from the town. Despite that, he has been to planning board meetings where they told him similarly, you do not need to be here. It's also very important, I know you noted earlier about grandfathering the state's position. This town itself has its own non-conforming use status and requirements. That non-conforming use statute mirrors to some degree the states in that if a ordinance comes out after someone's been in operation, they cannot be shut down. And to your point about changes, Jill touched on this, and that the changes were, the porch was always enclosed. That's always where he met with his clients and his patients, and that's where he's always operated at as a store. And that the building use was for, a building permit was to make updates to the interior. So the question of when you lose your non-conforming and when you have to go back before the board to confirm whether or not you can do something is when you're expanding the footprint. The footprint has never changed.
Or like Phil said, if he wanted to start a commercial kitchen and start manufacturing edibles, that would be a change that would upset the grant.
Which I'll note he has also been doing. I think that the important part here is, right, he was under the agriculture. He was told by the town multiple times, despite going before them, that he did not need to get approval from anybody because he was a pre-approved use as agriculture. Then South Berwick took the initiative to start implementing new laws. Again, Mr. Bergendahl would come to meetings and check in and say, hey, what does this mean for me? And he was told, you don't have to do anything. Your grandfather did. I think the other thing I wanted to point out to, that was brought up earlier by Phil, was his email and how he perceived it to be used in our letter. The use of that email is to show that there has been a large amount of review of this storefront over its entire existence.
I'm sorry, you're now kind of belaboring some points that your co-counsel has already discussed. I'm gonna kind of pull us back here and remind us, so this is on unfinished business number 5 this evening, because we took this up in August. The same issue up in August, and the council voted to not issue the license. So now within a year, we're taking this up again because you all have said you have additional information for us to consider. So I think now it's appropriate for the council to consider the additional information you have shared. We can decide if that changes our decision at all. If it doesn't, then you all have ways in which you can appeal this decision.
I appreciate that. If I could just make one last
I
small
will give you
point.
1 more minute.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that it is important to notice that he has never received a notice of violation for operating a retail store or for operating his business during numerous reviews, numerous questions, plenty of his neighbor contacting the town constantly asking about this. No notice of violation was ever issued because the fact of the matter is there wasn't a violation. I think that's a very important point. And I'll let you guys deliberate. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I bother?
Sorry.
Officer Denny again. Could you please explain to me if there's been any recent violations at this property, say since last August?
Yeah, sure. So, Mr. Bergendahl received a notice of violation, since August. Recently, we are able to go, with no notice or 24-hour notice into any of our cannabis licensing, either cultivation facilities, retail under our current ordinance. And I did that, so I went to Mr. Bergendahls place of business, his cultivation, and he is allowed to sell, I just wanna, neither one of the attorneys touch base on what he can actually sell there. So, I'm not really sure why, but, what he can actually sell there is anything that he makes on site, so he can grow it. He can turn it into ice cream, he can turn it into whatever he wants, and he can sell those products. The only thing that he can't sell under his retail is like paraphernalia, glass bongs, papers, things like that. Letters. So when we entered, I went there with one of our, police officers. Mr. Bergendahl was not home at the time. I think he was at work. One of his workers let us in, kind of take a tour. And there was, paraphernalia for sale, whether it was for sale or not, it was still being displayed in the store. And so I did write a notice of violation. Mr. Bergendahl did quickly mitigate that notice of violation and we re-inspected and everything was fine after that. But yes, there was a notice of violation that went out within his licensing calendar. You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion from council? You can come up and speak for 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself and speak into the microphone.
So the reason why the paraphernalia was in my store was because when Joe Russell came out to inspect the store,
I'm sorry, could you state your name, who
Oh.
you are and your address?
Eric Bergendahl, 161 Agunca Road, South Berwick. So when Joe Russell came out to my shop with the state, back in, I believe it was 2017. And he inspected, he said he had a problem with the paraphernalia and I had to have a tobacco license. So I went and got a tobacco license immediately and put the pipes back in the store. I hadn't been notified since then that they couldn't be there, so that's why they were there. And as far as unlimited patients, that was allowed December of 2018, that's when that started. So it didn't just start in 2020 or 2024, it was in 2018.
Yeah, no, they said, I know it changed, but.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so as I stated earlier, the business that we're taking up this evening is, we're kind of rehashing an issue that we had already discussed in August because additional information was presented. So I think if I'm remembering, correctly, our, action that we took back in August was whether or not to approve a medical caregiver retail license for Nature's Miracle. In August, that motion, we made the vote, the motion was made and the council voted, I'm assuming, I don't remember then the count, I'm sorry, but that was voted down. So now if given the additional information, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the medical caregiver retail license for Nature's Miracle LLC, given the additional information presented this evening. So we have a motion on the table.
Check.
Thank you. Can I get a check-in with Tim and Tyann for motions? Is that?
Yep.
appropriate motion? Great. All right, we'll go ahead. Any discussion? Go ahead, take a vote. Melissa?
No,
Bill?
No.
John?
No.
No. Motion does not pass. Motion fails 0-4. Thank you all for being here tonight. All right, we'll move on to unfinished business number 5, which is the new addition that's not on your printed agenda. We made a motion at the beginning of the meeting to take High Striker Farm located at 104 Pond Road. To set the context for this, in the past couple of months, High Striker Farm came before the town council for a renewed cultivation license. And the council action at the time was to ask that you put together an odor mitigation plan. And I believe we have the gentleman from High Striker Farm, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your name.
Ryan Reed.
Thank you, Ryan, to present kind of where you're at that moment.
Yeah, so I started out with the looking into trying to find some experts in the field. And I started with some admins from the state of Maine college. And they kind of didn't have anyone direct to point me towards, but they did say they were aware of major odor complaints that happened in the town of Scarborough. So to reach out to Scarborough and see who they might recommend for that. After I reached out to Scarborough, the name of Mike Shannon here was given to me as one of the people who had participated in helping resolve the odor mitigation problems that were, a problem within Scarborough's town. And, I invited him to come to my property and go through the entire property and see where any maybe voids would be, anywhere where odor might be leaking, and any ways that we might be able to improve upon what I thought was a complete plan. And he definitely was able to find numerous areas that could use addressing and to be buttoned up. So in lieu of that, we decided to write together a new odor mitigation plan and something that would work in lieu with the town to try to bring awareness, even when we do get an odor complaint, that day we know we can go out, we can find it and mitigate it and make sure that it's not taking place anymore. I do believe that in the last couple of months, we've been pretty successful at keeping any odor from leaving the property, but I do believe that with some added finances put into it, we probably can improve it even more from where we're at now. I know you guys probably haven't had a chance to read the whole new plan because it was just brought out to you now. But it is something that if you want to, you can read it later. I don't know if it's necessary for me to read through the whole thing. But I figured if you have any questions, I invited Mike to come out too, to give you any insight into what he dealt with his town and how they remedied the issues that they had in their town.
Thank you. I'm gonna actually ask Jenny. I get your take on, the mitigation plan that has been submitted.
Yeah, hi. So Ryan Reed, emailed this over to us. I did, look at it in depth today. It's pretty good. The only thing that I would say to Ryan is odor mitigation and talking about when there's a complaint, we can mitigate it. We want to see you put in action now so we don't get those complaints. And I think that this document is a nice job of what you're trying to accomplish. As long as, you want me to talk to you or him? I'm so sorry. Are you sure? Okay, so Madam Chair, I think it does a nice job, but I think it's important for Mr. Reed to know that he needs to actually put this into play and make this work. If he puts this into play, I do believe it will work. I appreciate your input, and I don't really have any questions on this document as of now.
So that was my next question of when
Honey,
will this be in place?
You're gonna have to talk in the microphone. I'll just stand here.
I believe it's something we're gonna put into place almost immediately. It's just something that we wanted to know once the finances were gonna be expelled for this. It's something that the town is willing to work with us on it also. So it's not just a one-way thing.
got it. So this is your plan and you kind of want to make sure that this is good with us before you invest the money.
All the money, yeah.
That's fair.
Jenny, do you,
I'm gonna step in front. You wanna step over?
Yeah, sure.
You're right. Okay, we'll just stand. Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that, Bill.
no, do you think that this gives you something to go back to, when you get a complaint?
Yes.
The process to kind of, hey, I can identify the issue within this plan, you're not meeting whatever the standard is, this kind of thing.
I would
had a
like-
question about what sufficient intensity means when it comes to detection, but it's not really an issue for me to solve or.
We can answer that question for you, I believe, but I will say this, I do believe that the board should ask Mr. Reed, if you want to, how long he thinks it will take to implement this, instead of just saying, we're gonna get to it when we get to it. If you guys could try to just pinpoint a time period for that.
So, and that's excellent. However, my understanding where that gentleman is right now, I want him, me to say, this is a good plan, go implement it, so he spends his money. And then he can tell me, I'm gonna do it within the next month or two.
That's wonderful. That'd be great.
I was going to suggest perhaps we could do like a conditional approval, like a temporary conditional approval pending the implementation of this plan.
Madam Chair, I recommend that, yes, you would conditional temporary approval, the time, date. Yeah, something.
Okay.
So put it on the first, so first meeting, last meeting. Whatever time they need. Grant him an extension on what he has now.
What is the time frame in which you all are comfortable, being able to actually implement this?
I mean, I think with the way supply chains have been, sometimes getting this equipment, there might be some sort of delays. So I think that, 30 to 60 days might be pushing it a little bit, maybe more like 60 to 90 days might, give me a little more freedom to acquire all the elements. The other thing I wanted to bring into attention is come fall, I have neighbors that are like across the street from me and next door to me that also usually procure their plants to grow for their civil rights plants in their backyards. And I wonder how that's gonna affect the fall odor when there is odor issues come fall. Because I'll be mitigating and taking care of my own personal property, but if odor comes in from civil rights properties that have their own plants outside, I would like us to be able to stand outside and really work our noses to say, is it coming from this direction of wind or from that direction?
I think this will help you go a million miles, because again, I understand exactly what you're saying. Drive through the woods, you can occasionally tell where someone might be growing something because they want it. So I think you implement this, and I think you have a lot to stand on and say, this isn't me.
Exactly.
I think this is great, and I appreciate the effort you put into this. Again, I'm good with 90, because supply chain isn't easy.
Bill, or you know?
I was just gonna say, I think 90 is, would be reasonable as well. I just wanna make sure that we're not going down the path of, we get toward the 90 and, well, we didn't put the order in until, last week, so I need an extension for another, I would like to see some progress. Hey, we put it in order. The lead time on these items is X number of days. Maybe, I don't know, we can have them check back in at some point, say, hey, we ordered everything, and within 30 days, it's gonna take us.
This is what I'm thinking, is that we make a motion to grant a temporary conditional license through end of August. That will kind of cover you through this implementation period, and then after that period, that end date in August ends, then we can come back and kind of redo this, given the plan has been implemented, and do the full license. But what do you think about that?
I think it's great. I think that I would want to know, if I were you guys, I might want to know, he said that there's 4 or 5 times a year where his plants that are at a certain ripeness. I would want to know if within that 90 days, this will be implemented and those plants would meet that ripeness at that time, so we can see if this is working or not, or if he has to do something different to make this plan binding happen.
That is a good question. What does it look like?
I can honestly tell you right now that we're approximately 2 weeks from harvest in the greenhouse that we're working in right now. And there's been no odor complaints the past 2 months. And I'd say that by the time 90 days has passed, we're looking at 6 months, that's half the year. If there's been no odor complaints within half a year, I'd say that if you're not gonna grant permission, that there's something wrong at that point.
All right, any other questions from anybody? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to grant High Striker Farm a conditional temporary medical cultivation license to expire on September 9th, 2025. And that's it.
Second.
Any discussion? We have a motion on the table. All those in favor, say aye. Melissa?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you for the effort.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you for your patience with it.
If you guys ever wanna reach out, here's my information.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I neglected to mention during the discussion part, I think it would be in our best interest to maybe proactively reach out to the abutter that had specific concerns. I don't know if being proactive, or do we wait until? It just might be nice for that abutter to know that this is what's going on. This is the time frame, because she has, had multiple.
Sure, I think with this board's approval, I don't mind reaching out to the Julia and just having a conversation with her, letting her know that you have approved this odor mitigation plan and sharing it with her, and just keeping her in the know, because that's really all she wants anyway.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah.
One quick, remark as far as if we get any complaints, how we're gonna know whether it's coming from his or coming from somebody else. So, if code enforcement officer gets a complaint, she's gonna go out there, she's been out there the first time. She smelled it when it's coming from his facility, and I'm pretty sure she'll be able to make a determination at that point based on weather, wind, and all the other conditions, probably which direction it's coming from. Especially, you know, this odor mitigation plan has been implemented, put in place. And we haven't had any complaints over 4, 5, 6 months, and suddenly we're getting some plants arriving. I mean, Jenny's pretty clever, she'll figure that out, I think.
I'd like a ride along, you can call along the way.
I'll pick you right up. Fun, get ready.
Beautiful.
That wraps up unfinished business as well.
Well, that,
Yes,
okay.
we're all set.
thank you.
All right, moving on to new business, number 1, liquor license renewal for Oddfellows Tavern.
Madam Chair, I move we accept the liquor license renewal for Oddfellows Tavern. They are a business of good standing and we've had no reports of issues from the police department.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the liquor license for Oddfellows Tavern, say aye. Melissa? Aye. Bill?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Moving on to new business number 2, municipal legal services RFP. Tim, you wanna set this up or this?
Yeah, Madam Chair, so we've had in legal counsel, a number of extended years. Like everything else, once in a while, it's good to go out to bid, see where the prices in the market are. Determine what we're getting for our dollar, making sure we're getting the best bang for our buck, the community we serve. And we had not gone out to bid any years that I can determine, at least probably maximum 20 days more. So I just think that, certainly just put the RFP out there, it's a standard RFP, a lot of the language comes from, MMA, legal department. Put it out there, see what we get, can't hurt. I just think it's a great opportunity to refresh what we're doing, make sure that we're on the right path. And again, Berkshire Shore may very well win that bid, but it'll be an opportunity for them to come sit in front of this council and get an interview and make sure that we're pencil shopping and we're getting the best lawyers for our business.
Thank you, Tim. So I think our order of business for this evening is to just make a motion to authorize the manager to put an RFP out to, for the town attorney, correct, right? That's what we need this evening?
Yep.
Great. Does anyone have any questions or anything for Tim? All right, I'll go ahead and make a motion to authorize the town manager to put out an RFP for municipal legal services for the town of South Berwick.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second by John. Yes, sorry. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Melissa? Aye. John?
Aye.
Or Bill?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0, mixing it up. All right, new business number 3, Town Hall Community Art Project. This is an agenda item that was 100% my responsibility and I am not prepared this evening, so I'm gonna make a motion to table new business number 3, Town Hall Community Art Project to our June 10th.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Melissa? Aye. Bill?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. And new business number 4, the York County budget meeting. So the public hearing for the 2026 proposed budget for York County will be held on Wednesday, June 4th at 6 p.m. At the York County Government Building. If anyone of us would like to attend that evening, just information for us. Any discussion, action, anything, anyone? Okay, we can move on from new business number 4 to new business number 5, construction manager proposals. So as I think everyone is aware, the town of South Berwick, we are going to be renovating this building soon. We are working with Oak Point and Lassell Architects to do that. And the town of South Berwick needs to hire a construction manager to kind of run that process for us. the council, we received a packet of 8 applicants, last week at our annual budget meeting. And this evening, the intention is just for us to discuss the applicants that we received and then, figure out who we would like to interview. So my list of all names. I was going to suggest, when I can find it. All right, so the firms that we, received applications from, Wright Ryan Construction, Landry French Construction, Yaniston Construction Corporation, Great Falls Construction, Allied Cook Construction, Benchmark, Charters Brothers, and PC Construction. I thought we could start with everyone kind of listing your top 3 to 4, and we can see where we have overlap and start from there. Does that work for the council?
Madam Chair, we have a scoring matrix.
Yep.
I already have Council James and I already have Council Minihan.
Oh,
They sent me theirs today. So I will go ahead and say Council Minihan. I'll have top 4.
Sure, yep.
So let's see. Number 1 for him is Allied Cook, which is 36, score 36. Benchmark. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was 36, that's the second two. Wright Ryan Construction down the bottom was 41.
Are you reading his top ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm reading top scores. Top scores, Wright Ryan Construction was 41. Allied Cook Construction was number 2 at 36. Benchmark was number 3 at 34. Charter Brothers was its 4th one at 32.
Okay, so top 4 were Wright Ryan, Allied Cook, Benchmark, Charter Brothers.
Right.
Okay. Want to do John's next?
Council,
I can do it, you can do it.
Council James scored Allied Cook 48. Then he tied the next two. The second place was Charter Brothers at 39. Wright Construction at 39. Then his last was Texas Benchmark.
Okay. So basically, John and Jeff have the same top 4, correct? Okay. I have similarly, my number 1 was, and I have this matrix that I can submit, but I had my number 1 was Charters Brothers, 2 was Allied Cook, 3 was Wright Ryan, and then I had Yaniston actually as number 4.
You had who?
Yaniston.
Oh, yeah.
Who's your 3? 3 was the Wright Ryan. So it definitely seems like at least among those 3, Charter Brothers, Allied Cook, Wright Ryan are consistently in the top 3. Melissa and Bill, are those consistent for you guys too, by any chance? What are your top?
Yeah, I have, Wright Ryan, Charter Brothers, Allied Cook, and Yaniston.
I just had a little slow.
Sorry. I'll send you my, numbers, but Wright Ryan is my number 1. You need the numbers now, or?
No, just give me the 1, 2.
Charter Brothers,
Yeah.
Allied Cook Construction, Yaniston Construction.
So my number 1 was actually Yaniston. Okay, my number 2 was Wright Ryan. My number 3 was Benchmark. And my number 4 was Charters Brothers.
All right, so it seems like consistently from all 5 of us, no one picked Great Falls or Landry French, so I think it's safe to say we'd like to not interview.
Or PC Construction.
Or PC. Yeah, I missed them. Okay, so we're basically left with Charters Brothers, Allied Cook, Wright Ryan, Yaniston, Benchmark as the 5 most interested. Yaniston and Benchmark were the least consistent among all of us, but Melissa, I feel like, what were your top 4 again?
Wright Ryan, oh, wait, no, sorry, Aniston, Wright Ryan, Benchmark, and Charter Brothers. Okay.
What do you all think? Should we interview 5?
No, 3.
Yeah.
3, I would say narrow it down to 3 versus 5.
Yeah,
I don't want to go do what we did with town managers.
yeah. Is everyone comfortable trying to narrow it down to 3 tonight? And then we can try to get interviews scheduled next week?
Yeah,
Okay. So I would say we should for sure try to get the ones that all 3 of us had interest in, or all 3 of us, all 5 of us had in our shop. Which would be Charters Brothers, right?
Three.
You don't have Alex in yours anymore, right? Yeah.
Charter Brothers was 5. Yeah, it was 3. Right, construction. So top 3 would be. Top 3 would be Charter Brothers, Ryan Construction, and Allied Cook, 5 members. 5, 5, 4.
Okay.
I like charter. Brothers.
Yeah, Allied. Charter.
Yep.
5, 5, 4.
I think they're.
Is everyone comfortable with reaching out to Wright Ryan, Charters Brothers, and Allied Cook for interviews for next week if they can come and meet us? Is that good with everybody? Okay. All right. I will go ahead and make a motion to authorize the town manager to work with Wright Ryan, Charters Brothers, and Allied Cook to set up interviews for construction, for the construction manager position.
And I'm sure, and before we make that motion.
Yeah, I was
Pick
gonna,
a date to include in that, so I can,
yep.
a date and time, so I can start sending. What will work for you next week?
Yeah, I think we were trying to complete these interviews during the first week of June, so. Council, what works for everybody.
So. What if what works for us doesn't work? Like, next week is fast. I mean, you know, so the companies that we're trying to interview, I'm concerned that they might not have availability.
One of them is here in the audience.
Oh.
Yeah, I like cookies right there.
I like those here.
It's industry standard, it's not a fast turnaround. We're all waiting to hear.
they, wanted to do it, they'll find a way.
Well, yeah, we kinda, so to move to the next phase, we kind of push this. But we don't need this week, we won't be till the 3rd or 4th week of June, so.
Yeah. How does the 5th look for everybody, Thursday?
Are we doing it night, like, same thing?
Yeah, like, I mean, I would say if we could start as early as what would work for everybody. What's the earliest everyone?
6.
6, okay. We could do the 5th at 6 o'clock. Try to do all 3.
How long do you want, 45 minutes, an hour,
I would,
hour, a half hour, 45 minutes? 45 minutes and 15 minutes with discussion,
yeah, I would say let's try to schedule them for 45 minutes apart.
then
And then we have,
15 minutes of discussion. Then the next
does that work for everybody? Then we have at least half an hour. buffer.
Yeah, say. You want,
Like I one at 6, one at 6:45. What is that, right?
One at 6, one at 7.
Okay.
I give you a 15-minute break for pockets in between,
Oh, okay, yep,
because that's important, so you don't lose track of your thoughts, of what's going on.
yep,
Then you get a chance to have a little break, refresh. Then have the next meeting, take a break, do a caucus for them, then your last one.
great.
Will that work?
Roll past my bedtime, but I'll make it.
Sorry.
Alright.
Inflatable mattress and a pillow?
Friday's gonna be rough.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to authorize the town manager to work with Wright Ryan, Charters Brothers, and Allied Cook to arrange interviews for the construction management position on June 5th, 2025 at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and 8 p.m. on the first floor of town hall.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Melissa?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. That takes care of all of our regular business. We'll hand it to 10 and 10 for the town manager report. You.
Obviously on the highway, Memory Bridge Road culvert work. As I said, the diversion the stream, clearing the hole for new culvert installation for specifications, roadside, islands and field mowing. Police department has 1 arrest, 4 accidents, 115 traffic calls. Fire department has 11 calls in the last 2 weeks, with 76 year to date. The new fire truck will finally be delivered on this Friday, May 30th. Not sure of the time frame. Remember, this truck we ordered in 22, it's taking us long to get it. Everybody's excited to see it. At some point, once we get it set up and get all the equipment on it, then bring it over and give you a tour of the theater. You'll have a chance to see it. The fire department applied for, or pre-awarded a $1,588 safety grant for state of Maine. Maine Municipal Association to replace all the traffic safety vests. They kind of, the ones that kind of lost their own. This will be on the next council agenda for y'all. Both firefighters participated in the active shooter drill at the elementary school in Berwick on May 17th. Training included law enforcement and EMS, fire responders. Feedback from those who attended was very positive, working. The chief and the EMS director is working on the next steps to get the EMS program up and running. An non-transport EMS application has been received in the EMS investment being reviewed price. Code enforcement, she had 3 building permits, 3 plumbing permits, 3 certificates of occupancies and 3 violations. Planning and economic development, Shoetown Park Design Workshop was last Tuesday. There are 20 families attend. The next step is data analysis. Downtown Revitalization Advisory Committee will meet on May 28th at 4 p.m. The first 4 items, agenda items include reviewing, editing, hopefully approving bylaws and committee. Planning board will meet on May 28th at 6 p.m. for the public hearing on reproduction of the aquifer protection district map. And the impact fee study. There it is. There it is. My impact. Well, impact fee study has been initiated. The contract will be scheduling a kickoff meeting. The interview with various departments on the week of June 16th. Transfer station, new concrete pads have been poured for the new used plastic and tin can compactor, which should be here mid-June. Some of you understand, oh, there it is. But
For the library, for the month of April, there were 2,456 items borrowed. The door count was 3,137 people. The computer usage was 111. They had 34 programs in April with 458 people attending. Main Speaks series, Glenn Ross of Education for the Public Good, Equality and School Funding and RSU was there on May 20th. 2 advisory board members will be retiring, so we'll be looking to fill those vacancies. Recreation, the summer camp is now completely full, the hiring is complete, and the interviews for the junior counselors have been completed as well. Seniors, last week, Mona took a group of 44 seniors to the Winnipesaukee boat trip. They had a lunch buffet and were able to see Elvis before. Last Wednesday, our Memorial Weekend Day luncheon, the 3rd graders came over from the Memorial School and did a concert for the seniors, and that's always well received. They enjoyed that time. The assessing office will be closed Tuesday, June 3rd through Friday, June 6th for training. The annual property tax school is being held in Waterville, Maine at Thomas College this year. Brittany will be taking her certified Maine assessor's exam on Friday, June 10th. Town clerk, for the annual town meeting last week, we had 93 registered voters attend. And we do have boards and committees that are in needs of members. The Board of Assessment Review is not a quorum. 3 seats are available and 2 alternates. Recreation Committee is also not a quorum. 3 seats are needed for that. And the Zoning Board of Appeals, 2 seats and 2 alternate seats are needed. And we have a new hire in the town clerk's office, Kimberly DeRocha. She will be starting next Monday. Finance, HR benefits. This week, Heather will be starting to work on lien research for the Registry of Deeds. Currently, right now, there are 70 properties that could go to lien if it's not paid for by June 5th. Last year, there were 46 liens, so we do expect some people in the next week or so to get caught up on that. Paid Family Medical Leave Act, I have been looking into private insurance carriers, instead of just going with the state. And we are going to go in with the program. The state currently, we're paying $41,000 for this upcoming year. This private insurance carrier will bring it down to 29,000. But our first payment is not due until May of next year, so we have a year off payments. So that's exciting for the budget. We're looking into the cost of getting a credit card machine, the transfer station, and that will be more convenient for people. There's gonna be a little fee, kind of like, most likely we're gonna have to charge that small fee like they have in the clerk's office now. So we're gonna incur those extra costs to be a convenient state. The tower, the town hall was removed last Friday. That will make more room in preparation for the roof repair and solar panels. That will be the remodel. And DeCarlo and I are working and finalizing the TIF budget, which we will present to you in June.
And from the admin office, my office, I attended the York County Town Managers meeting. The Oak Point, we had a meeting with Oak Point and A&P Locksmith. The security cameras, CCTV cameras for the town chamber, all the electronic doors. Had a meeting with Oak Point and Stellar Technologies, which is our computer software people. The Land for Main Future Program, Cox Pond 8 and White Marshes Brooks proposal submitted by Great Works Regional Land Trust. We talked about last council meeting. Have been selected as finalists, subject to completion of the standing conditions when final board approval. Obviously, we attended town meeting and I want to thank the council for all your support of that. And all the citizens for this board showing up and coming out. With a lot on the agenda. Again, I think it shows a clear message that the majority of the public, everything passed, shows that you're they support what the council and the town administration. I received Brad Crystal's resignation from the building committee. And then he just states that that his appointment's up this year, and he will not be renewing it. He states the committee no longer serves no outstanding within the town. Only 2 members have resigned, this leaves a minimum of 3. Unfortunately, my resignation will leave just 2 members current, this makes the committee no longer function. This is my letter of formal resignation. I'd like to thank those members who served diligently in this committee with their hard work and previous project. Their commitment, thanks to Tom Hyman, Fred Waldenauer, Dave Stanfield, and Mark Eck, respectively, Greg Christian. He signed and sent the Winway tipping fee contract for execution. Celebrated National Firefighters Week by buying the fire department a cake and delivering it to them their meeting, monthly meeting. Celebrated National Police Week, National Public Works Week by delivering dozen donuts from Enzo's Benzos to the PD, transfer station, and Public Works. All ahead. That?
That's some tasty donuts. They're fantastic.
Thank you both. We're now at council member comments. John.
No, that was enough for me.
Celebrating National Public Works Week, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Steve, who actually does the mowing along the sides of the road. At the end of Emery's Bridge Road onto Boyd's Corner, it can kind of be a take your life into your own hands when you pull out, and he did a phenomenal job with getting that cut back. And while we're at it, Terry, the gardens look absolutely fabulous. With the mulching, and the lawns looked great for the memorial services, so I certainly appreciate that.
Only thing that I have is just a plug that this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 7 PM at the high school is Puffs. This is if anyone's a Harry Potter fan. The synopsis for Puffs is it is a play that offers a humorous take on the wizarding world, focusing on the Puffs, a group of students overlooked and underestimated as they navigate their time at school. I think it's the last show at Commercial High School this year. And that's all I have.
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn. Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.